This is my beautiful, tragic story of fatherhood, man. And I spoke to that machine all night, and those numbers stayed where they were supposed to stay. And she lived, man. Let me tell you something about relationships and love. When she was laying on that bed, her hand was there. She was sleep gone, man. Had her under, man, and I remember putting my head on her wrist and tears running down her hand. And I remember saying that any argument we ever had didn't matter. Because in that moment it didn't. And guess what? It's beyond even that moment. Let me tell you something. These arguments and debates you having, they won't matter, bro. I'm gonna tell you flat out, if you with an impossible woman who you can't build with, then get another one. If you get another one that want to build and want to love you and want to help you and you help them and y'all you do it, and those arguments, man, you take a time out and come back and send a heart emoji or smack her on the booty or whatever you do. But guess what? This stuff won't matter in these moments of life and death. These matters won't matter. You got to know that as a man. You got to lead that as a man. You got to keep that in your mind. No matter how emotional she's being in those moments, you got to know that even in that moment, you're a leader. And as a leader, you say, I'm going to lead this moment. And how do you lead it? You lead it by knowing, even while she's talking or yelling, that this moment won't matter when it comes to life and death. That's how you lead your family. That's how you lead your children. That's how you emotionally regulate yourself. And I'm helping myself right now, man. I've always had an anger issue, a short fuse. You gotta know what matters in every moment as a man, because emotionally she's not going to know what matters, because that's what she's leading with. And emotions aren't bad. Out of control emotions are bad. But a woman can't lead with her emotions. That's why we're there. And I know this is on the internet. Somebody's going to say he said women can't lead. No, just listen back to what I said. But if you were a great woman, man, you go ahead and, because it won't matter in those moments. I am She lived, man. Thank God she lived. Thank God she lived. She was very sick. She had to be on dialysis, man. And I remember, man, back then figuring out what dialysis was and what she had to eat and what these things was, what the diet was. And and then she did it at home, the dialysis at home, and she was masterful at learning all the stuff. I was scared of that stuff, the needles and all that, but I would keep everything tidy the way I could. The young father, man, just a young father. Man, I'm gonna tell you, bro, this stuff is not easy for a man. If you're gonna do manhood correctly, it's not easy. But guess what? The reward is seeing alignment. I saw myself aligned as a man. I became a man right then and there. When I was watching her on a table dying, I became a man right then and there. What you gonna do? You gonna fall down? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Those manhood moments, ain't they? What you gonna do? What you gonna do right now? Learn from this, guys. What you gonna do right now? What you gonna do right now when I'm sorry, guys. I'm just trying to. Yeah, let's do that. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when things falling apart in your life and you lose your job? What you gonna do? That's manhood moments. Manhood moments is I'm angry and I could hurt something, but what you gonna do? That's some manhood question. What am I gonna do right now? Y'all hear what I'm saying? What am I going to do? What you gonna do? And you got to ask. That's a conversation between you and you. And in that moment, I had to ask myself, what you gonna do? You gonna call mom? You gonna call dad? You gonna call her mom? You gonna call her dad? Or you gonna be a man? You gonna be a husband? You gonna be a father? You understand what I'm saying? And so we went back and forth to dialysis and figured out life, man. We had a rocky relationship because we were kids. Not rocky. It was, rocky when when I say rocky, we were too young to understand what we were part of. That's why you can't rush into marriage, man. We were too young to understand what we were a part of. And that's why when you come out of these relationships, when you're young like that, I'm not saying just go ahead and run around and get divorced, but because that was a mistake, right? That was a mistake. We'll talk about that in a minute, right? But uh we were too young to understand what we were part of, man. And so here I am trying to build an empire again that didn't matter, this great empire that didn't matter, right? And her being a wife, a young wife, have no idea how to be a wife. And I needed a wife because of all I've been through since I was 14, traveling, and all the distrust that I had for people everywhere. I was looking for her to be something she wasn't ready to be. And she was looking for Mr. Romantic, probably the guy she saw on stage. And it's not that you be a fake person, but the person you are at home ain't the person you are on stage. And you're a superhero up there, but you're not a superhero at home. I need somebody to heal me. And she didn't have that. She didn't have that, and she wasn't supposed to have it. Man, we can podcast and podcast and podcast off this story. A lot of us have gotten with women that didn't have what we needed. And guess what? You got to let them off the hook because they wasn't supposed to have what you needed. You didn't need her. You needed help. I'm talking man talk. I know this the internet, and I know it's gonna be some people that get on here and say, "Yo, we talking about a simp." I'm 45 years old. All that simp talk and all that nonsense don't got nothing to do with grown man talk and all that. You'll learn. And some of y'all that's my age still talking about simps and all that, bro. You already lost it. You already lost it, bro. I promise you already lost it. Man, if being a simp is being a good father and being kind to the lady you with, or being kind to your child's mother, or whoever you've been with, then that, if that's being a simp, then whatever, bro. Then my dad was a simp. I watched him take care of me and my sister and my mother. I watched him work and take his whole check and put it on the mirror, and take a couple dollars so make sure he got some tires and some gas, and he wanted to make sure he had cable and can watch Mike Tyson fight back in the day. That's all he wanted. If that's being a simp, nah, that's being a father and a husband. It's being a leader and a guide and an example to people like me who became like him. Um, yeah, man, we were separated. We were separated for no good reason. Well, the reasons I just explained. We still loved each other. I was in my apartment. She was in her apartment. And her in the house we had. She came to my apartment. We made what they call sweet love. A few months later, I was in New York teaching. She called me and said, "Christian, I'm pregnant." Okay. We found out it was triplets. This is my tragically beautiful story of fatherhood.